Madam President, we are witnessing one of the worst starts to any presidency in generations, and it's not even close. There is the possibility of negative growth in the first quarter of this year, which would have been unheard of, so bad economically that the Secretary of Commerce is trying to concoct another way to calculate GDP. If you wonder how bad the data is, you got the Secretary of Commerce going like, well, this whole GDP thing, we've been measuring it wrong for all of these decades. There is no comparison for the staggering levels of incompetence and lawlessness coursing through this administration. And regular people are paying a steep price. Tomorrow night, the president will try to rewrite his record and recast blame when he addresses Congress. I want to go over some of the worst things that he's done that actually hurt people. Because unless you're a billionaire, life has gotten harder, not easier, over the last couple of months. Number one, he's actively raising the price of everything. He is actively raising the price of everything. After specifically promising that he would bring down prices on day one, he has gone out of his way to raise them. The price of eggs is up 15%. Coffee prices are at record highs, and the price of everything from tomatoes to strawberries to clothes to toys to cars to homes and home building is about to go up starting tomorrow because Trump is picking a needless fight with our largest trading partner with tariffs. Prices will skyrocket, businesses will be hurt, and people will lose their jobs. Number two, not even a week into his second term, Trump illegally froze federal funding for all 50 states. All 50 states. With one Monday night memorandum, the White House locked states out of portals for everything from Medicaid payments to housing assistance. Schools, child care centers, rural hospitals, VA clinics were suddenly left wondering if they would have to close their doors or lay off staff. Almost a month later, the taps are not fully turned back on as a result of the freeze and Trump's other executive orders. Hundreds of billions of dollars continue to be withheld from states and communities where they belong. These are taxpayer dollars. These are dollars that are appropriated by this branch of government, the Article I branch of government. So if you don't like how appropriated funds are going to be spent, there is a mechanism for an executive branch to do something about it. They can propose a new budget, and they can either sign or veto a new appropriations bill. But that's not what they did. They just acted as though they could cross out things that they found objectionable. And it's not even as though they did that in some sort of methodical way. They had a bunch of kids going in there, literally kids, Control F. Oh, gender, kill that. Oh, native, kill that. Oh, climate, kill that. That's how they figured out what they were going to cut. Number three, Trump is illegally firing tens of thousands of government workers, many of whom are veterans. And he's not done yet. These are people who've dedicated their careers to public service, and in the case of veterans, risked their lives to protect our country. And they're just like the rest of us. Bills to pay, kids to feed, parents to care for. And they're being discarded. This is the biggest mass firing of veterans in the United States' history. Number four, no one stands to benefit more from this ransacking of the government than billionaires, which is no surprise considering it's being led by the richest people on the planet. Eliminating the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau that was created in the aftermath of the 2008 financial crisis specifically to protect people from fraud and deceptive lending practices, or dramatically shrinking the IRS, which means refunds will be delayed during tax season and tax fraud will skyrocket without proper scrutiny. None of that benefits a regular person. None of that benefits a regular person. But it's great news if you're a billionaire trying to wiggle out of paying taxes or a shady lender who's looking to defraud people. Number five, if all of this wasn't enough, Trump and the Republicans are working to cut taxes for billionaires and make regular people foot the bill. Now, that's not unusual for them. Cutting taxes for billionaires is kind of their thing. They like it. It is their reason for being. But it's alarming nonetheless in the brazenness of how they're going about doing this. They basically want to cut money that goes to regular people and book that as savings, right? So whenever you do a tax bill, if you're doing it right, it pays for itself, which means you have to have something on the side of the ledger where you're bringing in more money, and then another side of the ledger where you're cutting revenue, and then it adds up to zero, it nets out, deficit neutral. The problem is they can't really figure out how to deliver this $4 trillion or so tax cut to the wealthiest corporations that have ever existed in human history and do it in a deficit neutral way. And so they are just like committing arson within departments and then trying to book that as savings to pay for the tax cut. Now, it is true that all political parties have a tendency towards exaggeration. And so you'd be forgiven if you hear this, you go like, well, it's a Democrat saying this is what the tax policy is, and maybe it's not exactly like that. But I want you to understand that what's happening in the U.S. House as they negotiate over this big tax bill is exactly that. They're demanding more and more cuts from the Affordable Care Act, from Social Security Administration in terms of the staffing of the place, from Medicaid, where they want to turn it into block grants, which is just a euphemism for Medicaid cuts. And then they want to take all of those savings and not like reinvest it in some other part of the government, right? Not put it in the Department of Education, not give it to low-income individuals so that they can climb out of poverty. They actually just want to take trillions of dollars from you and give it to them.